This Snazzy Tapier production is made possible by our patrons. If you'd like to join them, head over to patreon.com/snazzytapier to get early access to new episodes, access to the members-only Discord, and our exclusive monthly newsletter. Now, on with the show. Hello and welcome to A Game of One's Own, a podcast dedicated to solo and duet role-playing games. I'm your host, Maddy Searle, and my pronouns are they, them. Today, I am recording at Dragonmeet, a TTRPG convention in North London, and I'm joined by a very special guest, Edward Spence.
Very special.
Very special. Could you please introduce yourself?
Of course I can. My name is Edward Spence, pronouns he, him, and you can usually find me over at Wounded Warrior Project, which is a charity for veterans based in Los Angeles, and I run role-playing streams for them. By the time this comes out, you will also be able to check out over on Stella Luna's channel our Beyond the Brook miniseries, which is our Over the Garden Wall inspired 10-episode series about 5 children getting lost in the woods, which seems apt for this.
Yes, absolutely, because today we're going to be playing Hedge Witch, a game by Justin Vandermeer, which can work both as a single-player or a two-player game. But so, obviously, this time, I'm going to be playing solo, and Ed can just watch me. No, I'm joking. We are going to be playing two-player game today, and I'll just read the summary for you so you can get an idea what it's all about. You are a hedge witch. You live in a little cottage in the woods and spend your days looking after the forest. Sometimes you have to do tough things the old-fashioned way. There's a lot of work to be done, and you only have a little bit of magic. Scrape your knees and get back up again in this cozy little game about hard-learned lessons and failing forward. So, to start off, we're going to talk about our characters. You begin the game with 6 points to distribute between 2 skills, clever and brave. You should not assign more than 4 points to a single skill during character creation. The clever skill refers to problem solving, approaching things carefully and thoughtfully, cautiously, doing things with preparation, whereas brave is a bit more immediate and forceful and risky. Ed, what's your character's name and pronouns, and what skills have you got?
So, my character's name is Ashlyn. She is a sort of 8-year-old kid with wild, dirty blonde hair and a jaunty sort of pointed black hat that's seen better days, and it's wrapped around with ivy and very, very old and very dry, almost potpourri flower petals just sort of cascading over the top, and almost kind of like a Dorothy from Wizard of Oz kind of gingham dress, and bare feet, always bare, always covered in cuts and grime, but this doesn't seem to bother her. So yeah, that's Ashlyn, and I've given her 3 in clever and 3 in brave.
Excellent, very balanced. I'm going to go for a character called Bronwyn, and I feel like I potentially need to make this character older to kind of look after Ashley. Maybe Ashley can take care of herself though. So yeah, I'm going to make Bronwyn she, they, and they're gangly, twice as tall as they should be for their age, which is indeterminate, with sort of eyes that are just a little bit too black. Like both the pupils and the irises seem to be almost black, like sort of voids. But she's got a very curious kind of bird-like look to her. When something intrigues her, she'll cock her head to one side and do quick little jerky movements. So yeah, I think that's going to be Bronwyn. And I think she's going to be more on the clever side of things. So I think I'm going to go 4 clever, 2 brave.
Okay.
As we'll find out in a little bit, we both have the same teacher, Samantha Heddy, who has gone missing. So do you know how your character feels about our mutual mentor?
I think Ashlyn she's very earnest. She's very curious. And I don't think that the absence of a tutor is something that she worries about necessarily. But I think there's a curiosity as to where she has gone. I think our tutor's probably roamed before and disappeared on occasion, and she always comes back. But I think this time it's been a little longer, I think. And I think there's maybe a slight pulling on Bronwyn's sleeve of, no, we should go and get her. We should try and find her.
Yeah, I think Bronwyn's been trying to kind of put a brave face on things and be like, I can handle this. This is fine. But inside, she's very much like, And is Samantha coming back? Because I'm not sure how long I can keep up this charade of being the grown-up. So yeah, exciting times. And in this game, we only have a limited amount of magic. We start with 1 wild point, and that represents our witch's magic and attunement with the natural world. In the beginning, you can spend wild points to cast up to 6 magic spells, and you can also exchange 6 wild points for a single skill point up to 3 times per game. If you want to use magic to address a challenge, you don't have to test your skill or roll a die. You simply spend a wild point and then decide what spell you're casting and how that solves the problem. But every time that we solve a problem, whatever kind it is, we have to mark it on our sheet because that will determine our score at the end of the game. Even though we have a score, it's all very much like, whatever you do is good. You're doing your best. You're trying your best. You're failing forward. It's all good. And you can earn wild points every time you successfully resolve a tough weighted challenge. You get 1 point. Or if you successfully resolve a hard challenge, you get 2 wild points. We will be hopefully succeeding sometimes throughout this game. You need 2 6-sided dice and a standard deck of playing cards, including 2 jokers, for playing the game the normal way. But today, because we've only got a limited amount of time, we'll just be playing with 1 joker, because that determines when the game ends. So for a solo game, you would record your experiences in a journal or an audio log, but as we're playing a 2-player game in person, we'll be role-playing through the scenes together. But if you were playing remotely, you could also write letters to each other. So we begin the game by reading the Seeking Starlight scenario from the booklet, talking about our personal experience of the scenario, and then we'll generate our first event. So to generate events, we pull a card from the deck. Each prompt contains an obstacle which must be faced before you can move forward. Every player can make 2 attempts to resolve any given challenge. To determine if your attempt is a success or a failure, decide which skill applies to the situation, roll 1d6, then add the value of that skill. If the task is especially stressful, you can roll at disadvantage, essentially. If the result is equal to or higher than the difficulty of your challenge, you succeed. Easy challenges have to be a 6, tough be a 9, hard be a 12. And it says about failure, in the beginning you'll fail often. That's okay. You should look at these setbacks as opportunities to grow. Anytime you struggle with a challenge, you should make a note on your character sheet. Now, it's time to read the opening scenario and just get into the game. Samantha Heddy has a wolf smile and raven feathers in her hair. She is the boldest and wisest witch you have ever met, and she taught you everything you know. You could not ask for a better teacher. You love magic, but what comes easy to your friend does not come easily to you. Sure, you make potions, light candles, and pray to forest deities, but your beloved teacher is on another level. Flowers bloom out of season just to surprise her, and all the animals that live in her woods speak, just so that they can speak to her. It is hard to tell where the Starlight Forest ends and Samantha begins. That's the problem, really. When bad things started happening to the forest, bad things started happening to its Starlight Witch. Now she's missing. Nobody knows where the Great Witch went. You've cast every spell you know to bring her back, but the Starlight Manor is still empty. Your mystic powers come from the forest, just like Samantha's. Maybe that's the problem? It's almost as though the well of power you draw from is running dry. A wish on a fallen star might help. You might just need to find a star. You saw one falling the night your teacher disappeared. In the meantime, you need to make the forest ready for the Starlight Witch's return. New problems crop up every day. Staying on top of it all feels impossible, but you have to start somewhere. The first step is always the hardest, but you can do this. Start now. Okay, so we need to shuffle the deck, make sure all the cards that we need are in there, and then we can get going.
Okay.
So yeah, Edward, do you want to take a card and see what it is?
Absolutely. 7 of Hearts.
Okay, 7 of Hearts is a tough challenge. A geyser bursts through the ground, becoming the mouth of a new hot spring. The water is oddly saline and animals become sick when they drink it. Yeah, how do you want to try and solve this as you're a little tiny witch?
So, stepping out of the Starlight Manor and taking a look at the landscape before us, and this new geyser, and seeing various deer and squirrels and badgers just slowly stumbling away from it and seeming quite sickly and grey, Ashlyn is going to run inside to wherever Bronwyn is and just tugging, Bronwyn.
What is it?
There's a big volcano of hot water outside, and I think maybe we should maybe try and plug it up, maybe?
Oh, okay. What do you think we should use to plug it up?
Well, I'm looking around and she's sort of like moving through the manor and sort of taking things out, and she sees a bookend made of what looks to be a fox's skull, and she just goes, I think if we jam this in, snout first, maybe it will, stop it, maybe?
Okay, we can give that a try. Sure. And Bronwyn was just kind of like, I will indulge this. And if it goes wrong, we can always try something else. So, yes, Bronwyn will follow Ashlyn outside to where the geyser is. And do you think it's a clever roll or a brave roll?
Ashlyn certainly thinks it's a clever roll, so she's going to do that, I think.
Cool.
So it's tough, which means I need to roll 2d6?
If it's stressful, then you each roll d6, but for tough, you just need to beat a 9 by rolling 1d6 and then adding your skill.
Okay, so she walks over it, and sort of the jaw of this fox skull is lolling as she walks along. She's like, "Come on, Mr. Fox, let's drink the water up." And that will be a 7.
Oh, not quite enough. So yeah, what do you think happens as you jam this fox skull in?
It works momentarily.
Yeah.
There is a from behind Ashlyn as she turns back to you, Bronwyn, and hands on hips goes, "There, it's all done." And there's just a as water flies up and just like completely drenches Ashlyn in this very warm water.
Oh dear. I'll just go and get you a towel. Bronwyn runs into the Starlight Manor, grabs a whole stack of towels, starts wrapping up Ashlyn. Are you okay, sweetie?
I'm okay. It's quite nice and warm though. And she just sort of like licks a little bit and then immediately just. I don't think it tastes good though.
Okay. I'm gonna try and think of something that I can do to help, but your idea was really good. It's always good to try. All right. So Bronwyn is going to go inside and into the corner that Samantha used to use for pottery and get some clay, and is going to try and make a sort of clay plug for this geyser hole. And yeah, I think she's also trying to do this for clever. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Oh, that's a 5. That's not doing it. Yeah, I think as she tries to push this into place, it's too thin, and the water just starts to push up through cracks in this clay, and it just goes right up into her face. And then they're just stumbling back and like, Ashlyn, can you give me one of the towels, please?
Did it work?
No, I'm sorry, it didn't work.
Oh, okay. Just looking around at this geyser that is sweeping into the sky, she just sort of starts to softly just dab around the outside, and then sort of seeing all of the animals around is just going to, don't drink from it. We have tea inside. We have tea inside for the animals, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they would like the kind of tea that we drink, but we could definitely do them some fresher water. Would you like to make a roll to kind of try and usher the animals away from the water?
I will. Oh dear, it's a 5.
Oh no. So what do you think the animals do in response to this?
I think honestly, and perhaps an indication of what will happen without Samantha around, but they just seem to diminish. They disappear into the darkened shadows of the woods around them, and they seem unresponsive. And Ashlyn just sort of sinks a little bit, and the hat, very wet and sopping, just seems to like grow heavier as well with her mood, and she just looks a little defeated already.
Oh, sweetheart, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I really wish Samantha was here.
Yeah, me too. But we're powerful witches as well, and we can come up with clever ideas to help the animals, help the forest, and it'll all be okay.
Yeah. What do you think we should do now?
Okay. I'm going to try one more thing before we go inside and have a rest. I'm going to try and build a little fence around the geyser to make sure that the animals, when they come back, they don't try and drink it and don't get sick. I'm going to try and get some sticks of willow and weave them together and make a little fence around the area. Let's see how this goes. I think this is also clever. Oh, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It just hits the DC. Excellent. Okay. Bronwyn goes and does a classic wattle and daub fence around this geyser. And it is using natural materials, even though it is human-made, it is using the materials of the forest. And she tries to like put living willow through it so it'll grow into its own beautiful little enclosure. Perhaps this will help keep the animals from getting ill from drinking the saline water. What does Ashlyn do at this point?
You're such a good witch. And I'm really worried that if Samantha doesn't come back, I know she will, but if she doesn't, I might not be able to be as good a witch as you. And I don't know if I can help in the same way you can.
Oh, no, you can help so much. And also, I've had longer being a witch than you, so I've had more times to fail and try again. So it only takes time. And even if it feels difficult now, it won't always be that way.
Okay.
All right, do you want to come in and have a cup of tea?
Yeah, and a biscuit.
Okay, just one biscuit.
Okay. And she just sort of like waddles inside and she's leaving very wet footprints behind her.
Nice, excellent. Okay, if it's all right with you, I'm going to draw another card.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's see what we got. 6 of hearts. I did not shuffle this well. Let's see what we got. Okay, 6 of hearts is another tough challenge. It has been raining so long and so hard, the river has swollen over its banks. The rushing water tears up ancient trees and washes away fertile soil. That seems tougher than the 7 one. So yeah, what do you think Ashlyn would like to do about that?
So I think as the rain continues on and the grey skies can be glimpsed through the window panes of the Starlight Manor, Ashlyn sees dirt and mud being churned up all over the landscape. And she sees the trees begin to sway, not from the wind, not from the rain, but from unsteady roots. And once more, she is going to, and I'm sorry, Bronwyn, but she's going to run up to you and just immediately start almost like tugging you towards the door. She's seen you work magic with water before, and she's just like, Bronwyn, and she's going to drag you towards, and I think she's going to try and start trying to create a bank, like a seawall, in a similar kind of manner to the wattle and daub. She's seen it work on geysers, and she wants to see if it works on the river as well.
All right, yeah, go for it.
So I think as she rushes towards the river and she's picking up sticks and mud and clay, she's a very brave little witch, or certainly she feels it. So she's going to roll with a +3 brave. That's an 8.
8, not quite enough. So yeah, what do you think this looks like as she very nearly makes it?
I think she's there at the side and she is like putting down sticks and she is weaving them as best as she can. And it is like a fairly good attempt from only having seen Bronwyn do it. But there is a moment, I think, Bronwyn, where you see the river just swirl upwards, almost like a wave, and it just like crashes down on Ashlyn, and for a moment you see she just disappears from view, and you see a very small hand, after a moment that hangs in the air for far too long, just pale and wet, just fly upwards and just hold onto the bank of the river, and you just hear a very soft Bronwyn!
Oh, Ashlyn, I'm coming. And Bronwyn, with her kind of like stick-like limbs, just sort of sprints like a stick figure out into the river and grabs Ashlyn and drags her back.
I tried. I did a really good job, but I got all wet again.
Oh, I'm sorry, sweetheart. Okay, we'll say enough time has passed that the towels have been freshly laundered, so that Bronwyn can go back in and get a new pile of freshly laundered towels.
Thank you.
You were really brave, though. That was a really brave thing to try and do, and yeah, so you should feel very proud of yourself that you gave it a good shot.
I feel wet.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. Okay. Because Bronwyn is feeling quite stressed at the thought of that she almost lost Ashlyn in this deluge. They're gonna spend one of their 2 wild points, because they got one from their success last time, to send forth a blast of spell energy to corral the waters back into their original banks. So you see as the water crashes in these vine-like swirls, looking much more sort of ornate and delicate than they would normally, just sort of pouring back into the banks of the river. After that, Bronwyn is exhausted and has to kind of slump down on the ground and take a moment to pause. That took a lot more energy than I thought it would. Okay.
You feel a on your shoulders as just a pile of towels just like falls on you, and like you just feel a little bit of like a rub on the shoulders, and as Ashlyn just tries to warm you up and just comfort you a little bit.
Oh, thank you, Ashlyn. Ooh.
That was very impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe I should have saved that energy for something else, but it felt important, so I'm pleased that it worked this time.
I mean, how are you doing, trees? Yeah, they're okay.
Good. I'm glad. There's these ancient gnarled trees, they're sort of gently swaying in the breeze. I think it's time to draw another card and see what happens.
8 of spades.
That's another tough challenge. The local bridge troll is a fitful sleeper. Every time he wakes up with a startle, he destroys the only proper bridge across the river. This is getting tiresome. Okay, this is great. I love this one. What do you think Ashlyn would want to try and do to make sure the troll has a better time waking up?
Early in the morning, sun rising and shining down in a way that it hasn't for some time. Ashlyn disappears into the kitchen for a little bit, and you hear sort of and she's buttering bread. She's sort of putting together a small sort of wicker hamper of just peanut butter sandwiches.
No.
And she wraps them all up in sort of a red and white gingham cloth, and she just walks out, sort of skipping down the wild paths through the woods. There's no distinct paths as such, but she moves between the trees in a way that is very familiar to her, until eventually she comes to this half-demolished bridge, and she just and just knocks on one of the stones, and Mr. Troll? And I think she's just going to try and convince him that due to the ebb and flow of the river and the swath that it has cut through the land, there is a very large empty patch of land that the troll can occupy. So she is going to roll brave.
Yeah.
It's a 7. As she peeks round, and she has this speech memorized in her head. She's been practicing it all the way there. She's oh, I think maybe. And she looks round the corner and just sees this humongous wart-covered creature, and immediately just all the way back to the home, and just like thrusts the picnic hamper into your hands, Bronwyn, and just I had a plan, but I don't think it's gonna work.
Okay, what was your plan?
I was gonna give the troll some treat, and I was going to say to him that maybe he shouldn't sleep under the bridge anymore, and there was a nice part of land for him. I don't know, I'm not real estate.
Yeah, everything is free real estate to witches, so yeah. Okay, I think that is a good idea. I think trying to see if he would sort of at least sleep somewhere different would be a good idea. I think Bronwyn is going to pick up the hamper and kind of grab Ashlyn's little sticky hand, because I assume it's sticky at all times.
She's also been eating some of the peanut butter sandwiches as well.
Yeah, exactly. And walk her gently back to the bridge and stand nearby and kind of encourage her to try again. I think because we both are allowed 2 attempts, if that works for you. Yep,
so she's going to roll brave again. She just shrinks behind you, Bronwyn, and just, what if he shouts at me?
Oh, yeah, that can be scary. Yeah, and it's okay to be scared. And sometimes you feel bad feelings, and that's okay, because they're always trying to tell you something. And that doesn't mean that you're bad. Okay, do you mind if I give it a try?
Oh, no. And she, steps back and sort of, gestures with her hands, please, after you.
All right, Bronwyn's gonna step up and is surprisingly even more tentative than Ashlyn was, because her brave skill is a 2. But she's trying to kind of put on this front of like, I'm the grown-up one in this situation. I have to do this. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. That's a 5. She manages to croak out a sort of weird hello. And then the troll kind of looks up, and then as soon as she like makes eye contact with the troll, she just scurries behind her in bit of the bridge, and is just like, okay, I see what you mean. It's really scary. Okay.
Yeah. No, did he look at you?
He looked at me.
Oh no!
He looked at me.
Oh, does he know we're here?
Yeah, I think he knows we're here.
Oh no!
Okay. Oh, now he knows we're here. That's at least something, I guess. So I'm gonna go around the corner and try and I'm just gonna try and leave the sandwiches there, see what he does with them, and then if it's a good reception, I'll start speaking. That sounds like a good plan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's 6. And that is not enough, I believe. So yeah, I think Bronwyn will go and put the hamper of peanut butter sandwiches out, and then see that the troll just kind of picks it up, puts the whole hamper in his mouth in one go, swallows it, and then just kind of looks confused and then walks away. And Bronwyn just like, I didn't get a chance to say my speech.
Do you know how to build a bridge?
Not really. I can do fences, but I can't really do bridges.
We could do a fence on its side across the river, and you see like Ashlyn begin to like walk away, sort of trying to formulate as much of a plan as possible as there's just an almighty belch echoing out from underneath that bridge.
Yeah, and I think that is all we can do for this day, this time. Thanks so much for listening to the first part of our game of Hedge Witch. That's all we have time for this week, but next week we'll be back with the conclusion of our cozy little witchy tale. If you'd like to try the game for yourself, you can find a link in the podcast description. Thank you again for listening to this episode of A Game of One's Own. Our theme music, as always, is by James Barbarossa, and this week's episode also included music by Kevin MacLeod. If you'd like to support the show, head over to patreon.com/snazzytapier for all the bonus goodies. You can follow the show on social media at A Game of One's Own, and find out more about my work at snazzytapier.com or at Maddy is Abstract on social media. See you next time for more weird stories.